do here in the state from a policy basis. Given lessons learned from that, given the changing national policy frame, and frankly the change, what the implications are of lower falling natural gas prices, that really kind of needed to inform our policy view. So last month we released a new state energy strategy that really tried to kind of take a fresh look at where was policy going in the state. And it's a big 170-page document, pretty thorough overview of a number of sort of short-term and long-term policies that we might adopt in the state. I think if there were kind of two key takeaways from that, it would be the following. One is that for our state, transportation is our biggest energy user, and there are big opportunities in transportation to both lower our greenhouse gas emissions, actually lower costs for consumers. And that was, I think, an area of particular focus that's different than what we've had here in the region, which is really is traditionally focused on our electrical grid. And I think when you look at transportation as a topic around clean energy, there were, again, two major elements of policy. One is we need a price on carbon. And we actually have the tools to do that in the state if we chose to. We have a neighbor to the north that did a revenue-neutral carbon tax. They shifted their tax burden from things they want less of, carbon, to things they want, from things they want less of, so to carbon and away from sales and business income. So we could do the same thing here in Washington if we chose to. We could, tax carbon and lower our B&O tax, or lower our sales tax, and get more of the things we want, less of the things we don't. And the other is we need to price our roads. That if we have a road finance problem, and that there is a whole market approach to road finance, which we're going to have to face as we shift away from gasoline towards electricity, maybe natural gas, and that has implications for how we finance roads. And if you price roads efficiently, you get a bunch of other environmental benefits. So there is certainly a direction towards trying to get good market price signals, and we have the opportunity to kind of engage that discussion here in the state here in year ahead, particularly move into electing a new government.
So I love this kind of business. It covers everything from seeing potentially Iran getting along to Europe. But I think Kurt really kind of hit it on the head there. Where we used to focus and where we're focusing now. Can each of you given your kind of, because we have a broad kind of advisory panel from both the government, previous business owner, and founder, to helping advise companies raise indirect strategic plans. Where was the attention, say, 08 in kind of the characteristics of business activities, and what are the priorities you see now that would be helpful to those who are looking for capital, or from your perspective, customers doing loans?
So I think in 08 it was to solar, to wind, to traditional clean energy. And I agree with Kurt, the money's just coming out of those sectors into natural gas. It's like a gold rush in the natural gas sector. We are so far behind other countries in terms of infrastructure. There's just tremendous amounts of capital going in to build that infrastructure. So it's very, very difficult now to get a wind project financed. Almost impossible. We don't do anything in wind. Some solar projects can get done, good ones, but that money that would have gone into wind would have gone into solar is going into natural gas. That's the biggest capital shift I've seen in the last 3 years.
On Kurt's, how he responded to the recession was really cool. Go spend a year snowboarding. So I can't top that in terms of what do we do differently, but what's changed. So you win. But it's the. I agree with what Michael said, and from the early stage investor point of view, it's less reliance on any kind of grants or federal policy things as a tailwind to a deal. So the capital efficiency has been talked about quite a bit. So that's really important for the early stage folks, and we see things that have to stand on their own. IRR type of thing without subsidies being more attractive to getting finance. So it's going to shift there to energy efficiency types of things. there's a lot of activity in this region in transportation. You mentioned it early stage. Here in Washington State as well as Oregon, particularly a lot of startups in Oregon. There's something in their water that makes them really progressive in the electric vehicle and transportation space. So it's very exciting. Companies down there like Dynamo, which is electric motorcycle, they're funded by Crystal Lake and some strategics. And they're continuing to do successive rounds. So a lot of companies are staying on a path. The ones that were on a path that didn't rely on a lot of subsidies, are doing well and staying, getting funded, getting follow-on rounds. And the investors like Northwest Energy Angels are really looking for those and are funding those that aren't relying on those. And companies like Hydrovolt's here, And another thing we see, another change we see is some companies are actually getting funded out of Asia, India and Asia. I know Demand Energy Networks Dave Curry, he said, we're kind of tired of some of these U.S. investors taking forever. You got money from China, and you get money and market access in one fell swoop. So, and that can be a good thing for employment for us here. You wonder about long-term strategic implications of that, so I think that's a change, and I advise early stage companies to try to get a corporate involved very early in their process of fundraising, strategic partnering. And maybe they don't do something today, but they may do something in a year or 2 years, or it could be an exit partner eventually. But a lot of investors are looking for that market validation from a strategic or something that they bring to the table to reduce friction into the markets. So, and corporations are a bit, they want to see there's proof, but they're really willing to listen, and if it is strategic to them. So that's a big change I see. Before there was enough money flowing that you didn't really have to rely on the strategics. Really the VCs and the angels and the super angels could fund most of that stuff. I think they're going to, they're coming back. And I think another interesting thing is the sort of change in these super angels that almost act like VCs, and they collaborate. They can collaborate with family offices. So there's this other layer of kind of funding that's not the traditional VC and not the traditional angel groups that are emerging. They're figuring out how to collaborate with each other. So that's another thing that's emerged. And they have cash.
It's interesting, Pat, you refer back to 2008 and what were people doing during that period of time, and then what are they doing now? I can't speak for everyone, but in 2008 we were desperately trying to find a way to survive. I mean, as you look at the roller coaster, that was Prometheus, that was the dip, that was the lowest of the lows. And that meant for a good person like Mike Butler, who was pivotal in coming to us and helping us raise some capital in the midst of all of that, we would have had to shut our doors. But in 2008, you were really coming off of that just wonderful upside of that roller coaster where everyone was into this. The wind, the solar, anything renewable, biomass. The AIM market was going nuts. Valuations were going through the ceiling. We all rushed over there and enlist and going to take advantage of that. And of course, end of 2007, early 2008, that collapsed completely. To put some context to that, we listed in late 2006, right in the height of that, when it was really looking great over there. We saw a market cap, our top market cap was about $130 million, which you look back at that now and you say this company had no proven technology, no revenue, and 60 employees burning $1 million a month. That's worth $130 million. That's how out of whack the market was at the time. But we were all pretty heady about that. That was awesome, because here we are, $130 million market cap. We're all counting our options. Our employees are watching the ticker every day. Terrible inefficiency in that process. But then to be the CEO of the company that then watches that over the course of about 5 months drop to $8 million. That's 8, not 80, that's $8 million.
My first meeting with Kirt I walked into his office. He took the phone calls from a widow in Scotland who owned like 1,000 shares, wondering why her stock was down 95%.
And she was easy compared to some of them. No, but the funny thing is, if she sold a few shares, it would move our stock price 20%. Stop doing that!